once again with Associate Professor Anthony Haynes, who's also our Associate Dean for Strategic Initiatives, and very significantly, the Director of our Cybersecurity and Data Privacy Law program here at Albany Law School. Dean Haynes and I have been talking about artificial intelligence, the ways that bias not just creeps into the system, but creeps in a way that's very hard to both identify and eradicate. And one of the issues that's come up is maybe fairness is a good principle to use as we evaluate that system. So Dean Haynes, I was wondering, what does fairness mean in the context of AI?
This is one of those important and difficult questions in getting into this notion of fairness. In matter of fact, it's one of the things that's tearing apart US society, is trying to get it to the heart of what is fair and what's not fair. I think Rawls talked about rendering each individual his or her fair due as a notion of fairness. And so we go back there, we go back to Plato's Republic about each caste having its appropriate place, the soldiers and the philosopher kings and the workers, and you have a just, harmonious society when everybody knows their place. What is fair? In the modern era, we have perhaps two competing notions: this idea of individual fairness, this idea of group fairness. And so individual fairness says, hey, look, your talents, your hard work, your efforts are the results of your success, and you should reap the bounty of your labor. And if you're great at football or great at law, then you get the payment from that, right? Group fairness says, well, look, most of what happens in life is beyond your control. You can't choose when in history you're born. You can't choose where in the world you're born. You can't choose your parents. You can't choose your genetic qualities. A lot of things are pre-you. And therefore, a lot of your success is because of group factors. And therefore, we're really concerned about this idea of group fairness. And so, and these two notions battle, it impacts the way we view algorithms and algorithmic fairness, because we've got to really wrestle those questions. Do we care about individuals or we care about groups? And that's going to impact how we define, in the case of the Compass algorithm, perhaps, if the overall accuracy across all groups is about 2 out of 3, then that might be good enough. But if we find that for Black candidates, it's more or less accurate than it is for white candidates, then we may care about those subdemographics. It may not be good enough because we're looking at this kind of demographic parity, right? That becomes a concern. It may be the case in many algorithms that we may choose in a particular context to prioritize individual fairness over group fairness, and in a different context to prioritize group fairness over individual fairness. So the definition here is going to vary on context. It's going to vary upon the needs of that environment.
So in the context of AI, something that every day gets a little more pervasive in both how we gather information, how we make decisions about that information, and importantly, how we interpret it. Do you tend to think that maybe group fairness or individual fairness should be more of a driving factor, or are they equally important?
That's the classic loaded question. It's going to depend upon the context. So in the case of facial recognition technology, so in an area that's gotten a lot of bans in Boston and Los Angeles and so on, they've been banning the use of in policing and law enforcement, the use of surveillance videos and FRT technology. And the reason why is because of how it's being abused. So what's happening is that when you upload your photograph into the Department of Motor Vehicles or the passport database, you are doing it for a very particular purpose, to get a license or to get a passport, not to be subjected to a virtual lineup. But across the 50 states, many police departments are sucking in images from the Department of Motor Vehicles and then running them through a face recognition technology and FRT program to see if they correlate with some kind of suspect description. And that, to me, would be a violation. And a lot of cities are saying this is problematic. That's one of many problems. A second problem is this: the way in which the face recognition technology is being created is to use primarily off-the-shelf, freely available modules. This freely available modules are mostly young white men. So your initial iteration of most of these applications do a great job, or at least a less bad job, of recognizing male faces as opposed to female faces, and light-skinned faces as opposed to dark-skinned faces. So it's so bad that if you're a Black female, it may have a less than random chance of correctly identifying your gender, for example.
Less than random?
Less than random. Yeah, it could be pretty terrible. It can be pretty terrible. Now, as critics have come aboard, and critiqued IBM or Apple's or Facebook's or Google's versions of these programs, the vendors have tweaked them to make them more reliable across race and gender by paying more money to get more representative photographs in the training samples that they feed into the algorithms. But again, this is a problem. So we have right now in the real world people who are being arrested off of a faulty face recognition technology match as being a suspect in a crime. They're being held in jail for a period of time. It's like, oh, the algorithm messed up. It was a problem. So this is really, really problematic. So this idea of group fairness versus individual fairness, I would say that this is an example where group fairness trumps, that the demographical disparities in the technology suggest that we need to benchmark it across racial categories and make sure that it works there. And B, if we can't get to the point where it's reliable across different demographics, males and females, or people who are white, people who are Black, then maybe we do temporarily prohibit the use or ban it. I don't know that in the long term, a ban is appropriate for FRT, but I do know in the short term that there are enough problems with it that maybe this is potentially the right approach. Now, other contexts, I'll stop here.
No, that's fantastic. You've given us an awful lot to chew on and think about, but of course, raising the alarm on this, I think nobody could do it better. So thank you, Professor. As always, very enlightening, and we look forward to having you again soon.